Cheers! All right, hi everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee with Hiretual. My name is Winona, and I'm the content marketing specialist at Hiretual, as well as the producer of this YouTube series. A little bit about me: I'm passionate about all forms of content, particularly when it comes to sharing stories from awesome everyday people, stories that can help people learn and drive impact from a societal aspect and a business aspect, which is why I love the talent acquisition space so much. Today, I have our guest, Benjamin Rifleman. Thank you for joining us today, Benjamin. How are you feeling?
Feeling really well. Thanks for having me here.
Yep, of course. Welcome to Coffee with Hiretual. I hope you're excited today. I have a couple questions that I'm excited to cover in our discussion today. Let's get this going. All right, Ben. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Tango Card.
Like you mentioned, my name is Ben Rifleman, and I'm the manager of talent acquisition and employer brand. I lead the recruitment strategy around sourcing, employer branding, and really anything to do with talent acquisition and employer brand operations here at Tango Card. I'm incredibly passionate about Tango Card in general as a company and our talent acquisition process. We really strive to make our TA experience informative, data-oriented, and as enjoyable as possible for both the candidate and the hiring team. As far as roles we typically focus on here at Tango Card, the scale is quite broad. We're a small team, so we hire across the organization, but we place quite a bit of resource behind attracting those technical candidates in the software and data space.
So you mentioned that you're incredibly passionate about Tango Card, Tango Card's talent acquisition process. I guess a little bit more into that before I move on to the next question. What is it about Tango Card's talent acquisition process that you think is special, and what do you love the most about it?
I do think we at Tango Card do an exceptional job of being empathetic towards our candidates. We truly try to make the process as transparent as possible too. We have many communication points throughout the process so people don't ever feel like they've been ghosted, for lack of a better term. So we really try to put ourselves in the position that the candidate is in.
All right, great. And so you mentioned that you also liked making the talent acquisition process as enjoyable as possible. And I'm sure, given everything that we've gone through this year with the pandemic, the talent acquisition space has taken a couple hits. It's been a very stressful environment. So I guess I was curious as well, how have you kind of navigated through that and managed to continue making the talent acquisition process enjoyable, even though for many it has been stressful, it has been very uncertain as well?
Absolutely. So a lot of the talent acquisition process, now that it's been remote, it is much harder to make it enjoyable. So prior, we were doing things like having swag that we could give candidates during the interview process, giving them a little binder with their agenda, benefit information, etc. So a lot of this has had to move remote. And to make things a little bit easier on that end, we're providing our candidates with the LinkedIn information of all the people they'll be interviewing so they can do a little bit of background. We're trying to make sure that if we schedule a Zoom meeting that the recruiters are meeting the candidates 5 to 10 minutes early to make sure the camera is working and microphone. We know that interviewing remotely can be a bit nerve-wracking, so we try our best to take out that anxiety from the process.
You mentioned, something about anxiety in the process, and I think that is a very common factor for a lot of candidates right now. A lot of people are a little bit scared about taking that leap when it comes to career changes or just going through a whole talent acquisition process, hiring process in general. So how have you really kind of make candidates feel comfortable, the ones that are uncertain to make a career change, the ones that are scared about making a career change or looking at another potential job? Stability is a big thing that a lot of talent acquisition teams are focusing on. So how have you managed to build that conversation and really make them feel comfortable and not scared of these risks?
So prior to the pandemic, the choice to move to a new company was just as emotional as it is now. But the emotion that people were typically catering to, especially us as recruiters, was pride. Whether this is in job titles and salary and compensation, etc. But now, in addition to pride, we really have to cater to concern. Candidates are rightfully concerned about the stability of a company, their hiring practices, the sustainability, etc. So we're really having to be much more transparent with candidates than before. We're trying to discuss what our future has in store for us to the best of our ability. And my advice for other TA professionals out there is to be very transparent with how your organization has changed during COVID-19 and to also do your best to paint a roadmap for the candidate. And if you don't have this roadmap yourself, you really need to reach out to your leadership team, as this is a very common question and concern with candidates.
And you raise an interesting point. The whole discussion about being transparent with candidates is something that we've been hearing about a lot. And I'm sure that, we've had a lot more applications for each open job role. And that means, recruiters are dealing with a lot more candidates that they need to get back to. Do you think that impacts the ability to be transparent and to respond to every single candidate as often?
It absolutely can be difficult to handle, especially at scale. You're right in saying that positions that we normally used to get maybe 100 applicants for in a week, we're now getting 300 or 400. But you can automate a lot of this responses, and a lot of the day-to-day communication can be automated in your application tracking system or ATS. So there's a lot of solutions to that. We at Tango Card do automate a lot of that, and we also set warnings and timers in our ATS for candidates who haven't heard from us in the past 7 days. This keeps us as accountable as possible in the process, and we really, again, want to make sure the candidate experience is as good as possible.
All right, so we've known each other for a little while now throughout your journey as a Hiretual customer, and the last time we spoke, we actually had a conversation about how passionate you are in D&I and talent acquisition and how you implement those strategies at Tango Card. So let's talk a little bit about that. Recruiters, talent acquisition teams play a humongous role in D&I by being that first point of contact between candidates and a company. So can you share with us how this looks like at Tango Card and how you've been overcoming D&I roadblocks this year, with that being a major discussion that people are trying to push for?
Regarding diversity and inclusion, I like to say to have an incredible symphony orchestra, you need a lot more than just one type of instrument. The same is true with companies and their hiring practices. Again and again, the data shows when companies emphasize diversity and inclusion, they really do outperform their peers on a variety of levels, importantly, profitability. But beyond this, the focus on D&I right now and always is simply the right thing to do. At Tango Card, it's really a team effort. We use OKRs, objectives and key results, to drive results in general at Tango Card. We currently have a company-wide OKR that is tied to DEI, and we plan to focus on this on a quarterly basis. So by placing this OKR, we have a sense of accountability throughout the organization. So DEI is really, really a team effort throughout an organization. So our hiring managers are bought in, our employees are bought in, and of course our executive team is bought in. As a TA team specifically to support this belief, we've taken a variety of actions, such as hosting events like Women Hack that specifically target an underrepresented group in the technology field. We also use, of course, Hiretual's incredible diversity and inclusion filters to help us find those really outstanding candidates to support our mission of having a pipeline full of diverse and qualified candidates. So again, at Tango Card, we recognize inclusion, diversity, equity, and allyship are vital components to the success of our organization. This mindset, again, is a team effort and is in our culture's DNA and is nurtured by the C-level all the way down to our frontline employees. And this commitment throughout Tango Card to do better and be better has really set us up for great results on the DEI front.
All right, thank you. So we talked a little bit, we covered a lot of things during our discussion today. We talked about, the behavior of technical candidates in this current market. We talked about D&I. We talked about how TA teams have had to shift their communications to build that trust with candidates. What are some other things that you've noticed this year? Some really important factors that have changed the way you've gone through talent acquisition this year. A few things that have really impacted your process.
Absolutely. So one thing that has impacted our process quite a bit here at Tango Card is automating as much as we can throughout the talent acquisition process. Automating communications, as well as automating the onboarding process and interview scheduling, etc. We really want to make sure our recruiting teams are focused on doing what we do best, which is working with candidates and hiring managers rather than all of the administrative tasks. So if there's one thing that I can really push and advocate for, regardless of pandemic or not, it's automation in the hiring process, so you can really focus your energy on talking with the candidate face-to-face or camera-to-camera today.
Going off this discussion on automation, let's talk a little bit about technology and in particular data. I know at the start of our conversation, you mentioned that you're passionate about, taking a data-driven approach to talent acquisition at Tango Card. I guess I'm curious as well, how do you think data will play an important role for your team, for talent acquisition teams in general, when it comes to ending this year strong? The market is volatile, it's bouncing back at very unprecedented rates. It's very unpredictable, especially in a global sense. How will data really help recruiters, how will data help you kind of have that overall picture and know what's the best strategies moving forward?
So data in particular is a very interesting thing, not just in talent acquisition, but as a whole. Data is both worth a lot and potentially nothing. It depends on specifically what key performance indicators you're tracking. So specifically for us, we track our time to hire, of course, but we also track our interview calibration. So are we noticing a trend with our employees on their ratings? Is there something we can do for trainings to help people become better interviewers, etc.? So using this data-oriented approach helps us not only be better in our understanding our time to hire flow, things like this, but also helps us see potential pain points down the road where we're training interviewers to either provide feedback faster, to provide more feedback, or really explain why they provided certain feedback.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for answering all my questions today. We covered a whole lot of stuff. My final question will be, what are any last words of advice you have to recruiters out there, to all the viewers of today's episode? What can you say to them to really end 2020 strong, start 2021 off in a good start? What do you have to say?
The one thing I could say is leverage your network. As recruiters, that's one thing we typically have a pretty large amount of people in our network. So rely on your network and ask for help when you need to. We're all in this together, more or less, so we need to rely on the network as much as possible.
All right, thank you so much, Ben. Where can viewers reach you as well if they have any questions for you?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn at Benjamin Rifleman, or you can email me through my Tango Card email address, which is benjamin.rifleman@tangocard.com.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Ben, for being a guest on our second episode of Season 2 of Coffee with Hiretual. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We're really excited. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.